and welcome to This Is. Last week, Microsoft showed off some of our most comprehensive Xbox Series X gameplay yet, and the reaction was, I would say, slightly underwhelming. Whereas this week, Sony countered with their own PlayStation 5 gameplay. However, it's not strictly gameplay as well. Yes, it's running on PlayStation 5 hardware, but it's more of a tech demo for the very popular Unreal Engine, now running on its 5th iteration. So Matt, I think the real question here is, now that we've seen a good glimpse at what both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are capable of, it's easy to say that PlayStation's looking really good.
I mean, first thing to point out is that, yeah, the Unreal demo is running on PS5 hardware, but this is not this was not Sony showing off the capability of the PS5. So there's nothing really saying that that Unreal demo couldn't have been run on the Series X. Part of when we had the Series X reveal, it was a pretty crappy compressed YouTube stream.
These are a lot of titles that are cross-gen, right? And obviously the first games of a generation are usually sort of shared with previous. It's not necessarily the best representation of what the Xbox Series X gameplay will ultimately look like. On the flip side, while yes, the tech demo on PS5 is very impressive, but the thing is, Epic straight up said that it is also going to be ported to the Xbox Series X. You're still going to see, of course, Unreal Engine 5, and because we know that the Xbox Series X is slightly more powerful, it is going to look just as good, if not slightly better. So yes, we obviously have this tech demo, and that's great, but the thing is, tech demos are very rarely indicative of what we're actually going to see with real games, right? Like, if you remember, first of all, like a couple years ago when ray tracing was first sort of really shown off and announced, there was this incredible ray tracing demo, I believe EA did, that looked great. But have we seen a game that looks that good yet? Not necessarily. This Unreal Engine 5 demo is very much like a best case scenario for what we could see with the PS5 and the Series X. But the thing that they actually announced here is that it is also moving over to an Unreal Engine 5 background, which means that with that more powerful engine and of course the much more powerful consoles, we're looking at a game like Fortnite, which really is going to be leading with a lot of these very cool new features. Is it going to be photorealistic? Absolutely not. That's not the art style. But what it does go to show is that we have some major leaps in technology, not only on the engine side with Unreal Engine, but also on the hardware side with these new generation of consoles. That's the gameplay I wish we would have seen, not necessarily just a simple tech demo.
Yeah, because it's nice that we have the higher graphics, but you said yourself in your video last week, graphics are not making these leaps and bounds like they did in previous generations. And so a lot of people looked at some of this gameplay and said, well, that doesn't look that much better than the Xbox One or a PS4. And I feel like people are missing the point with how powerful these consoles are this coming up generation, because graphics are only part of what is going to take advantage of that power.
Absolutely. And honestly, I feel like we can go a lot more in depth on the differences between the console generations and sort of really in the expectations of what this next generation is really going to provide.
When we do videos like these, the number one comment we always get is, LOL, just join PC Master Race or whatever. There's no one arguing that a console is more powerful than a PC.
Well, I will say these new consoles, specifically the Series X, is basically equivalent to a very high-end gaming PC today. But you're right. It's easy to go from bad to okay, and it's not that hard to go from okay to good. The problem is, once you hit that sort of good level, let's say like Xbox 360, PS3, to go from good to great, and especially to go from good to like realistic.
I also wonder though, do we want a person to look better in a game? Let's talk like ethics for a second. Do you remember Modern Warfare 2, whatever, No Russian, where you go through the airport?
Yeah.
How would you feel if the people were more realistic in that? Like if it was photorealistic, if you're looking at an indistinguishable human.
All right, Matt, Black Mirror, Ancini.
That's my point. Like, that's creepy. So there has to be a level of separation.
Take a step back for a second though, right? There's obviously more advantages in better looking graphics than just purely sort of the negative side of things, right? So obviously with these new consoles, we're getting more power, right? We're getting better processors, which can handle bigger worlds, more detailed simulations with like physics and whatnot. We have more graphics horsepower to render not only the bigger worlds by themselves, but also to have more detail in those worlds. And then we have the ability to support things like ray tracing, which especially with the lighting really is kind of one of the last keys to unlocking a much more sort of realistic looking visual experience. But it doesn't all have to be sort of the negative negatives of, oh no, your Call of Duty 35 is gonna look too realistic and your mom's gonna yell at you for playing it or something. Like, there's certainly advantages to improving beyond just the people getting mad at video games for looking better, right?
I agree. So that's not my point either, though. Is that, like, what everyone is kind of complaining about is like, oh, this doesn't look that much better. So that, you know, the next console generation is crap because it doesn't look that much better.
It's a fair criticism when you consider that these consoles are likely going to be $500, perhaps even $600. And if you're looking at that and you're looking at your old PS4 or your Xbox One, which obviously you've had for years or you could pick up for like $100 on eBay, you might really question, why am I spending this money? Or you also might question, why shouldn't I just go and build myself a gaming computer and have the many benefits of a PC? So I get that to some degree for sure.
So I'm gonna use Final Fantasy VII again, and that's my benchmark. I looked at that game and I said, these graphics are good enough for me for the foreseeable future. Like, visually, the way that people look in that game, the way that you know, textures on weapons or on the enemies, on, you know, Cloud and Aerith, and especially Barrett. Like, Barrett looked amazing in that game. And that was enough for me for a, you know, a character where I want that power that's coming with the Series X and the PS5 is not in better graphics for the characters and whatnot. Is I want it in the everything else about the game. With all this power, you can have these massive, massive open world games, you know, something like a Skyrim type game.
Let's actually talk GTA 6 for a second, because I think that's a good sort of idea of a game that GTA 5 is easily one of the most popular games of all time right now, right? They have sold so many copies. It's 7 years old and they're still selling it like hotcakes every day, right? So this is a game that was originally designed for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Now that was obviously by the time GTA 5 came out, those consoles were old, but one thing they still had going for them was really quite powerful processors. And then one of the things I talked about in my video on the main channel was that the PS4 specifically actually was almost like a side grade. It wasn't actually a big processor jump going from PS3 to PS4, which sort of limited some of the open world games that we saw going forward into the new generations. However, that is changing with PS5 and Series X. So we're looking at about a 4 times performance improvement on the processors, which really will open up things like GTA 6 to look much more realistic, not only on the graphics side, but you could have, you know, better looking ragdoll physics. You could crash through, you know, city skylines with your vehicle and the entire building could fall down. Like, there's the processing power to pull off something which sort of really does look a lot better, not only on the experience side, but also, of course, on the visual side.
Like, everyone's saying, oh, it's more powerful. It just has to look more amazing, more amazing, more amazing. I don't think it does, because I think a game would be so much more immersive if, you know, you suddenly have all this, like, if the environment is, say, 100% interactive. You know, if you could actually shoot a building and a bullet hole is like a permanent thing, or, you know, if you could actually crash a building because the physics are built into every aspect of it, that is so much more immersive than looking slightly better or slightly more realistic. When we showed the ray tracing Minecraft in the Xbox Series X reveal video, everyone's like, wow, that doesn't look that good. Well, you're not watching it on, you know, we didn't shoot it in HDR. You're not watching it in HDR. So, of course it doesn't look that good. It's limited by what you're watching it on. Let's face it, a console is meant to hook up to a TV. That's always been the case for those. It's one thing to say, oh, I'm gonna go get a, you know, $1,000, $1,500 gaming monitor, which has HDR and 144 hertz or 244 hertz frame rate, whatever. That's not what a console is meant. A console's meant to go in the living room with your 55-inch TV.
I think the thing is, there's always a chicken and egg style situation, right? Where if you look at sort of TVs and consoles being developed together, which obviously they are, right? I feel like fairly few PC gamers use a TV, fairly few console gamers use a monitor, right? It's kind of separate. It makes sense that you would see the consoles trying to take the lead on a lot of the stuff. And in fact, we actually have seen that, right? So for example, the Xbox One for several years now has supported FreeSync, which is variable refresh rate, something similar to what NVIDIA has with G-Sync on TVs, or obviously on any device. But they've kind of led the way in sort of companies like Samsung adopting FreeSync and adaptive sync for their TVs. And obviously we've seen, specifically on the LG side, some of their OLEDs actually supporting full G-Sync, which is really impressive. So there's definitely been some movement there, and honestly, in talking with some of the Microsoft guys, it does seem like some of the things like that they put inside the Xbox One really were sort of a proof of concept to push the TV industry forward to have better support for things like when you plug a console in or when you start playing a game, automatically switching over to game mode, for example.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. We're both saying the same thing in different voices. Everyone always says, just get a PC and that will solve all your problems. Again, yeah, your PC looks better and it has better frame rates, but at the end of the day, your character can only do the same things on the console versus the PC.
If you look at like the PC, right? A PC will allow you to play a game at low, medium, high, ultra, and will allow you to turn on and off graphics features, but it still has to be the same game across the board. And we're seeing the same thing if you look at the PS4 versus the PS4 Pro versus a PC versus a PS5. All of these games, the game is gonna be the same across all of these platforms. And until we get to a point where either you've got the crazy, exclusives like the Naughty Dogs and the 343s of the world who are developing specifically for these new consoles and put everything into like, okay, we're gonna juice absolutely everything we can out of the PS5 and the Series X. What we're really waiting for is for everyone to catch up to where the consoles really arguably are kind of leading right now.
One of the biggest memes with game logic is, oh, I can't go down this path or I can't enter this room because they put a 1-foot shrub in front of me. So to me, until you can say, well, on PC, I'm allowed to enter that room because my PC is so much better, but on console, I still can't because it can't render that. Until you can give me that kind of distinction between the two, the whole PC master race argument is invalid to me.
Matt, you were just asking for it. You're asking for it in the comments, man. You're asking for it.
I know, but this is how I feel about it. Like, yes, your PC looks better. No one's arguing that. But at the end of the day, we are still playing the same game.
I mean, I can't argue with that. Thank you very much for watching this episode of This Is. Feel free to let Matt know your very eloquently thoughts in the comments. I'm sure he's going to read every one and really appreciate your very insightful feedback. And of course, make sure to subscribe here on This Is for lots more gaming and I don't know, what's our next video, Matt? Do we have any more videos or is this it?
I think I got myself canceled, but we do have some cool videos coming up, so check them out.